Jesus and help other people do the same. There's lots of Christian organizations, but do all of them actually make disciples? Second of all, if you lose the disciples, if you stop keeping the main thing, you don't have the power to change all those other things, because true change happens in the heart before it happens in the street. So we got to keep the main thing. We got to protect our priority of making disciples. And this passage just breaks open really easily. Number one, there was a problem. In verse 1, which I just read, sort of summarizes that problem. Now, it wasn't just a case of a bunch of old ladies not getting their food. You see, in those days, that was like a pre-welfare, that was a pre-retirement, a pre-401k and the whole nine era. There was no safety net. The church was the safety net, right? And by the way, that mandate to the church still holds today. James 1:27, pure religion. That's one of the few instances where religion is referred to in a positive sense in the Bible. Pure religion is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction. In Galatians 6, Paul throws down, he says, do good unto all men, especially those of the household of faith. But now, there was a bigger problem going down than simply an administrative problem. If you get underneath that administrative problem and come up, you'll see that there was a far deeper problem. It had racial, it had cultural ramifications. Did you catch where it said Hellenist? The Hellenists had a beef. What's a Hellenist? A Greek-speaking Jew who had come to faith in Jesus. These Greek-speaking Jews who had become Christians had a beef with the Hebrew Christians, the Hebrew-speaking Jews who had become Christians. Now you might say, well, I don't get it. Like, aren't they almost the same people? They're both Jewish? Well, there were major differences in those two people groups, though they were both, in some sense, Jewish. And the language differences were much more than simply, the cultural differences were much more than simply language. I mean, that's a barrier in itself, isn't it? Like, you ever try and speak to somebody who speaks another language? What do? But it was even bigger than that. You see, the Hellenists, they were Jews that years ago had left the motherland. And they had left Palestine, and they were living all around the Mediterranean rim. Now, the Hebrew Jewish Christians, they had stayed in the motherland. Now, you can already see where this is going, right? Because not only was there that difference where they were from, some of them were scattered who had recently come back to Palestine, the Hellenists. Some of them lived in Palestine the whole time since they originally came. But you also had this. The Hellenists, when they were scattered, what do you think they did with the Greek culture and customs around them and the music? They started assimilating. They started picking up the Greek diet, the Greek dress, the Greek culture. What do you think the Hebrew Christians thought of that? They